Interrompemos esse podcast para perguntar: quem você quer ser?
Designer, engenheira,
pedagoga,
administrador.
Quer saber? O Senac EAD é nota máxima no MEC. Tem cursos de diversas áreas, com conteúdo elaborado por especialistas do mercado e professores mestres e doutores. Ainda tem o Senac Carreiras, conectando estudantes a vagas de emprego em todo o país. Saiba mais em ead.senac.br/graduação.
Pausa rapidinho agora para falar de dica de ouro para os papais e mamães. Depois de experimentar a nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha, tudo ficou ainda melhor pro meu filho. É a única com canais em X que se adaptam aos movimentos, com 2 vezes proteção noturna e cintura elástica que se adapta ao corpinho do bebê, além de ser super fácil de colocar e tirar. Praticidade pura. Então guarda essa dica. Nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha. Bebê, estamos juntos nessa, mais do que nunca. Agora curta seu podcast.
Hey, Holly.
Hey, Dave.
How are you? How's it going?
Doing as well as can possibly be. How about you?
Doing okay. Still quarantined, so still doing these Zoom calls and still futzing with the audio. We're talking with Doug Cosmo Clifford of CCR. Doug,
renowned drummer Doug Cosmo Clifford.
Yes, a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band Creedence Clearwater Revival. The audio is sketchy a little bit, so we're gonna play with it. Please tolerate. And tried to boost it up as much as possible. And it was actually a really good talk with Doug. So let's get started.
Fun to talk to a legend, another legend.
It is always fun to talk to a legend. This was our first Rock and Roll Hall of Fame guest, right?
I believe it was.
Okay, so
hopefully we'll have more to come. Sorry.
Perfect. So let's get started with Doug.
So how are you holding up? How are you faring?
Been a real busy time. Just in history and the well-being of the planet and everybody in it. I've been hanging on to that pretty well. And I think a little of that has just caught me off guard. And when that happens, in these times, I went exactly backwards on my schedule. So we're here now.
No worries. Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Can we call you Cosmo?
You can.
Nice. Love it. You know him as he's the drummer of CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's a band he started with his friends, Stu Cook, Tom Fogerty, and John Fogerty. Ever since junior high, you guys were in this band?
Junior high.
That's amazing.
Except Tom was 4 years older than we were.
So that was awkward. That must have been awkward for a while when you're a high schooler playing with these junior high kids.
Well, it came out of necessity, really. Tom had a plan to teach. He was in a band called Spiderweb and the Insects. He was the lead singer. And
nice title.
They were really good, but they're prototypical musicians, unfortunately, because Tom's plan was to learn a couple songs, which he had, record them, and then get in his car, drive to L.A., and try and shop for a deal. That's pretty way ahead of thinking for a guy from the town that we grew up in and who was only 18 years of age. And it was overwhelming for his band because they said, well, are we getting paid? And Tom said, no, I'm paying for everything, the session, gas, food, when I go down there, any expenses, it's on me. And this is the beauty. Are there going to be any chicks there? Chicks. No, it's a recording session and it's our future. And this is another beauty. They said, we'd rather work on our cars. Enter the Blue Velvets, this little instrumental trio that we had. And quite honestly, Tom was a big supporter of us when we were doing sock hops in the gym and that sort of thing. He would come by our gigs when he could. And give us support, and since there was nobody singing, he would sing a song or two. Give us, he was a genuine, cool guy. I wish my brother was anywhere near this guy. So the band said no, and Tom comes to us and said, "Would you guys back me up in the studio?" And we said, "Make a record," and he said, "Yeah." And we said, "Are you kidding me?" So we were into it. We were about 14. And we had this a pact that we had as the trio, and that was to someday have our songs played on the radio. That was our goal, right? When we were 13. It's 52 years later, and they're still playing our songs. So that's another story. So anyway, we started the process of going in, learning to play our instruments together, and then going into the studio and being a recording unit. So that's what gives Creedence its unique sound, the transformation and the growth and all those things. It took us 10 years going in and recording and getting a little better each time, but it took us 10 years before we had our first hit. So perseverance was also in our resume.
And then it hit with a vengeance. That's unique in that you were interested in recording and not playing shows. Is that the case? You didn't necessarily want to play your high school or clubs, or what was going on? You wanted to record like hit songs. Is that true?
We really did, and we were driven by it. And when we progressed a little further and decided we better have a band like the Beatles. So Stu switched from piano to bass, and Tom picked up the rhythm guitar. One of the best rhythm guitar players, by the way, that I've ever played with. I sure missed him when he was gone.
So you're saying he covered the cost of that whole first recording? You were 13, he was 7 or 14 and 18, and he paid for this album, for this recording, for the whole band?
Yeah, he did, and he would do that when he had to, and sign funky deals with funky little companies that had maybe a 4-track machine or something, and would give us a chance to make a record, and they had the rights to put it out, and we started early on down that trail.
That's pretty resourceful.
I alluded to it earlier. Yeah, I mean, very impressive, and it's part. Tom was really the heart and soul of the band. He was the singer, right at the boss. We could count on him. It was almost like having a big brother who had kids, and that was Tom. He was like a brother, father, just a great friend.
Everyone needs a Tom in their life.
Yes.
So this was Tom's vision initially. John was how many? Like a few years younger.
We were all 4 years younger.
The three of you were the same age and the same grade, 7th grade.
Where was it you grew up?
El Cerrito. Well, I nowhere actually, because I haven't grown up yet. But
yes, silly question.
Little growing up humor there. El Cerrito, a little bedroom community in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area, and nothing fancy there. I mean, there was the caste system. Highlanders were the well-to-do folks, and Flatlanders were the lunch pail and greasy rag in your pockets, shirt.
We have that here in the San Fernando Valley. There's the south side, the rich side, and then there's the north side. So we're the North Siders here. What was the song? Was there one song? Usually there's a moment when you realize, oh, we actually have something here. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a hit. Maybe it wasn't a hit song. Maybe you were jamming sometime. Maybe it was something in the studio. Was there a time where it's like, oh, things are clicking here. This might be something.
Well, most of that came from the recording side. And I thought we did have a regional hit called Brown Eyed Girl, not the one by Van Morrison, but it was written by John and Tom. It went to #1 in San Jose and #1 in Sacramento and around the burbs of the Bay Area. And someplace in Florida was #1. And anyway, we had a taste of hearing our song on the radio. Stu and I, at the time, were going to San Jose State University, and we're in San Jose, and we got the #1 record. And boom boxes were big back then, and students would carry them around in between class. And this one guy had a huge one, and it was pretty cool. And I'm loving what he's playing because he's on the radio station, and it's our single, and it just went to #1. So I came up to him and I said, "Man, that's my band. That's me playing drums." And he said, "Fuck you."
Yeah, sure.
I said, no, that's really us. Flipped me the bird. I said, "Oh man, we finally make it, and people just, think that I'm telling them a lie. We reinvested every dime. We didn't go work on our cars. We were not a big part of our life.
Yeah.
But what it did a couple of things. It gave us a renewed source of energy and belief in the project. Hey, we came really close. We were number one in markets that had thousands, tens of thousands of people in them. We heard it on the radio, so that was a pretty important thing for us. But back to the original question, we didn't do a lot of jamming because we didn't have. Tom had a job and family, and we all had it, and we were in school and whatnot. So we had to plan our timing out, and there wasn't a lot of jams. I guess there was some, but we would have a song ready to learn, and we spent our time rehearsing for the studio. So everything was kind of set up for the studio. That was like our gig.
So you said this was the Golliwogs phase, and I was curious who came up with that name, and was there some? Did it mean anything? Where did it come from?
It meant bullshit. It was the name was stupid, and the reason for it was even the uniforms were absolutely ridiculous. Saul Weiss, the owner of Fantasy Records at the time, Beatnik, and he would always tell us when we come in to record on their 3-track machine, because they had a 4-track with 1 track that never worked. He said, "You have to have a gimmick. You have to have a gimmick." He said, "Well, how about a hit song?" That was a constant argument, and the only reason they had a rock and roll band is jazz doesn't sell well. Rock and roll, we can make money. So their whole plan was just to make money off it. Nothing spared, including complete idiocy with these uniforms, white Cossack hats, paisley shirt, green suede vest, and patchwork pants. I kid you not. And Golliwogs were South African dolls that were popular at the turn of the century in England. I don't think there are too many Englishmen you could stop on the street and ask him what a Gollywog was, and he could tell you.
Amazing.
But it didn't last. It didn't last too long. The name.
Well, fortunately, anything was too long, even a day. But we won that battle and never looked back.
Who came up with the idea? Okay, we've got to change our name, and then all of a sudden you come up with Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
Do those 3 words mean anything when you put them together?
Yeah. There was meaning and innuendo involved.
Always innuendo.
We knew what we had to change our name, and that was the time for odd names and different names because of what was happening in San Francisco. Jefferson Airplane and Grateful Dead and Silver Messenger Service. And also, the longer the name, the more print we got in the newspaper. True.
Smart. But
that's very wise.
So that you bring up a number of bands, and they, as we talked about, you weren't really jamming. All these other San Francisco bands were jam bands. You guys were tight. I mean, you wrote these 3 minutes pop songs, but it was rock and roll, but it was. I think you guys were
poppier.
Yeah, you were as rock as any, as the Dead, if not more. But it was a different. I don't know. It seems like it was not a San Francisco sound for sure, right?
Oh no! It was an East Bay blue collar sound, rooted on the blues. You had Richmond, California, primarily a black population there, with a huge shipyard that brought a lot of people from the South to the Bay Area to work on the ships in World War II. And so when they came from the South, they liked it in California, and they decided to stay. But the cool thing and contribution that they made was they brought their music with them. So we were hearing real blues, not the slick kind of slick down blues with Jimmy Reed and Howlin' Wolf, really raw meat and potatoes for sure. And the same with the country thing. We liked Buck Owens, and it was happening down in Bakersfield because it had a beat to it and a little bit more wild than the stuff happening in Tennessee. So that was all part of the blueprint made us. So you have rural and urban blues, and we're listening to it on the radio. And not too many places, certainly around big cities at that time, that had such a diverse radio plate.
It's a good, you point out, Dave, it's such a great combination because it was rock, it was pop, it was sing along, and just all those great elements together.
Well, it was just like those singles that when we were listening to Top 40 radio, and it was a wide open plate that they had. You could hear Percy Faith and his orchestra, and then on the next track it's James Brown. And then after that, it's the Flying Nun or Singing Nun. So, I mean, that's a pretty wide variety for sure. But the one thing they did have in common was they were 3.5-minute songs. Mm-hmm. And that's what we like, kind of the blueprint for what we want. The song comes on, you play it, the verses a couple of times, and the chorus maybe 3 times. And you said everything that you're going to say in the song, out you go.
Okay, so we're enjoying our talk with Doug Cosmo Clifford of CCR. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back.
Chegou a melhor parte do podcast. É hora de provar a melhor Coca-Cola. A Coca-Cola sem açúcar. O sabor irresistível da Coca-Cola, sem açúcar e igualmente refrescante. Coca-Cola sem açúcar. A melhor escolha.
Welcome back to the What Difference Does It Make podcast with Doug Cosmo Clifford from the legendary Creedence Clearwater Revival. So what you did, so you started as a recording band, but you're touring eventually on all the songs. How did,
Yeah, and once we had Brown Eyed Girl, another thing that benefited us was that the gig money was about 4 to 5 times more than it was before. So that enabled us to, continue to add to the equipment that we needed, paid the gas in Tom's car, and we did have gigs along the California Delta, so that really helped us, And when we decided to be full-time musicians, we played in bars up in that area. Yeah. People were familiar with us, and that helped too. We used Tom's credit cards, and they stole a second sheriff's warning. We put a little money on it, and then go to the next card. We were struggling.
Crazy.
That's no way to live. You got to make it.
but you look back at it, and you forget about the reality of being broke and what that can do to you. But well, I guess a lot of people are finding that out right now as we speak, with what's going on in the real world. But anyway, that was helpful for us. And there were bands. We were playing 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night. And so our competition was a band called Sparrow, and then another one called The New Breed. And we became friends with those guys, but it was kind of friendly competition. We all knew we were good. They were good. We were good. The other guys were good. And so we were competing a bar situation. Sparrow was John Kay in Steppenwolf. And The New Breed ended up was Timothy B. Schmidt on bass, who was then with the Eagles. Out of that group of guys, there was some talent.
Yeah, but okay, so where the magic happened, I guess maybe it was Tom who had this discipline for teaching you guys studio tricks or how to pump out these hits, because was it 5 albums in 5 albums in 3 years or something like that from 68 to 70. A lot of critics like to cite the 5 album cycle. Like if you could put out 5 classic albums, you're one of the top bands of all time. I don't even
Your
think
fate is sealed. And
yeah. I mean, even the Stones weren't able to do this. I don't, Bob Dylan possibly four great albums in a row, but Creedence in 3 years, the Beatles obviously did this and, a lot of others. What was it like in the studio during those 3 years? Was it just like get in, get out, or let's one take, 2 takes? How many?
We had more one takes than any band I know. I've talked to guys about it. It had to be 80, 85%, maybe even more than that, the first take. The way it worked, John's theory was that if we're ever off the charts, we'll be forgotten. Those are his exact words when I asked why the tapes. And I said, well, I don't know about that, but every band that I know that is popular will put out a record and a single and then go out and tour, and they're off the charts for could be a year, and you come back with a good single and a good album, and boom, they're right back at the top of the charts. But anyway, I was just trying to make sense of it.
Right.
So
that was the feeling at the time, especially of a lot of pop artists, and even now,
right.
Like you gone and out of sight, out of mind. I can completely understand the thinking, but I mean, it was good that you guys were doing this because these albums are all, if every album sounds like a greatest hits album,
Another thing that you should never do is put a single out in front of your album, but so when people want to buy the album and get the single that way, you lose that opportunity in the marketplace. We were well rehearsed. We went in with the exact album. We didn't go in with 15 songs and pick the 10 best. We went in with the album. Mm-hmm. Every song was going to be the song that was going to be in the record sleeve in the stores. That's how we did it. And we rehearsed. When we had a chance to finally do it for real, but you get the added spark of the adrenaline, you mix it with any of those songs, it's going to come out smoking.
And it did.
This is the 50th anniversary of Cosmo's Factory. The first song is Ramble Tamble.
Right.
Not a big hit, but
no.
Possibly one of Creedence's best effort. I mean, just musically, it is phenomenal. I was listening to it yesterday. And I'm just like, this is so amazing. What a great. This sounds like a band that's been together forever, and they're just loving this, creating this sound.
Well, it's like a book in a sense. And each piece of music is a chapter. Not a lot of fooling around with that thing. I mean, the timing in it, that thing had to be just perfect, coming up and down and back. And in those days, if the drums made a mistake, you couldn't go back and punch the drums in. It just was technically not feasible. I always had that added pressure, but no drugs, no alcohol, zero, not a beer,
really?
No rum,
Wow.
Nothing. But we did drink a lot of coffee, though. I'm gonna say that.
That was your drug of choice. Coffee was your drug of choice.
We liked our Folgers, I'll tell you that. Whatever.
That song is 7 minutes long.
Yeah,
That's epic for Creedence.
Yeah, that's an epic. And also maybe, the pressure on John as a songwriter, maybe, putting a single out or, the 8 minutes, that's 2.5 singles that he doesn't have to come up with as a writer. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure. He wrote pretty fast anyway. I mean, I give him credit for that.
Yeah.
But, there's 8 minutes that, he can fill with a nice piece of music that we can all be proud of, but with absolutely no intention of it being a single or doing what a single would do. That was part of it, We do longer cuts. We just don't. We got picked on because we had hit singles by our people. So, and the last laughs are pretty good.
Well, besides John's classic songs, there's a number of cover songs on here. What was the process on, how did Creedence decide what songs to cover?
We did 11 or 12. Most of it was just paying homage to people that helped us in our career, whether we had ever met them or not.
You asked the process by which they were chosen.
when we were looking for put albums together, we would jam 2-3 hours a day in those periods. More than likely, it would come up in one of those jams.
All right, so now you're house cleaning one day, and what happened? Yeah. And what do you discover? As we all discover, I
discovered in my studio my master reel, the 1/4-inch tape. That's usually the master reel when you mix down from multi-track into a stereo 2-track. That's the finished part of the record. So I found the one tape, and I found, I know that I have a lot of finished songs that I write. When I write a song, I usually wait until I have an album's worth, or at least no less than 4. And then I record them with guys, or I would record these things as if they were going to be masters.
You had actually forgotten about this music, and you came across it, and I read that it was 100 songs.
It's about that many total. Now, what happened once I discovered this upstairs? I started remembering. There's a locker in the garage that I have music stuff, and so I'll bet those reels are in there. In fact, I have a feeling, or even maybe a distant memory, that there's more to be had in that locker. So I went down there. That's where I found the best musical project I've had in my career. Because I'm not just a drummer. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter.
First time that I saw you, you were just another girl. How was I to know then you would change my whole world? Put your loving arms around me. I can feel your love surround me. You ain't just another girl. You ain't just another girl.
How do you decide, of all these songs, what you want to end up on this album?
Well, a couple of things. Get something to listen to where you have all the songs involved, and you just at a random order, you play those a couple of times, and you live with that for about a week, maybe even 2, because you don't, you want to be right.
Did you always want to call it Magic Window? Was it obvious to you that this was going to be the title of the album when you heard this song again?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about putting it out as an album. It was 35 years ago, so who knows what I was thinking.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. This was so long ago, it's like looking through a diary, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I did like the song, and it's one of the longest songs, if not the longest song I wrote with Robbie. Right now, I want the world to hear it.
Daydreams, looking through my window, wondering what I'm gonna do. Maybe I found certain someone. A window, tell me if it's true. Window, open up your magic. Show me who I'm gonna love. There's someone coming from a distance, like a shadow in the moonlight of a bird. Window is my magic screen, always different yet the same. Hope the magic will never change.
I love the idea of Magic Window. I like the title got the juices flowing. I thought it was a really cool, painted an interesting picture, or many, and it's got a good solid power groove, not at high tempos, but kind of, grinding. Somebody recently said it was like Bad Company. I thought lyrically there are some things in there that adds a little spookiness to it.
I had also read that you had recorded it in Lake Tahoe.
Well, that's why the name. That was the inspiration.
Yeah. That's what I pictured as one of my favorite places.
Well, our house was 1,000 feet above the lake, so we had a magnificent view, 70 miles in each direction, and the lake is in the center of it. So that's the magic window, and it's a good one to sit out gazing at it and sort of recharging your batteries sometimes.
Apparently, this is we're promoting this through a podcast. Normally, you would promote it by touring and playing, but I've heard that you are possibly retaring. Is this true? Are you leaving the stage? I mean,
from playing live.
Not
this mortal plane, but you're leaving the band.
Everybody's on the stage now, and who knows how long that's going to last.
That's true.
Pandemic. I'm not going to go out and tour. My body's beat. I had some surgeries that affect my singing. I got Parkinson's creeping into the picture. So,
but are you able to play regularly? Do you play for fun regularly?
Well, sure, I do. That's just part of my routine.
What do you think you're going to miss most about not being on stage anymore? Is it the audience, the interaction with musicians?
All of the above. The rush you get from the audience. I mean, that's a legal drug, and it's the best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Being with the guys that are making that happen at that moment, it's time to move on. I'm 75. I've played rock drums for 50, 60 years. I'm having a blast doing it. There's a new sheriff in town, and I've got an album I'm really proud of, and I think there's a lot of good positive that can come out of it. And I think right now, what we're going through outside of these windows, it's good to have some positive songs.
It's been fun for us to listen to, that's for sure. It was really nice to hear this. Thank you for releasing it.
Thank you so much for your time. This was really wonderful. And the album is Magic Window. It's available. It's streaming. Can we actually buy a physical copy of this?
You can buy a copy anywhere. iTunes, Amazon, all of those outlets. You can get it there. You can get it at my website, DougCosmoClifford.com as well.
Vinyl? Can we get a vinyl copy?
Not yet. I'm going to wait and see how this one does.
Okay.
That's the business part of it. It's got to perform at a certain level. And if we achieve that, we've already talked about it, vinyl and CD.
That's great. All right. Well, thanks so much, Doug. Cosmo. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks for spending the time with us.
I'm glad I was able to spend some. I'm sorry about the time, but we moved as fast as we could on that.
That's all right. You're doing great. Looking good. Stay healthy, please. We need you.
Yes.
There you go. Oh, nice.
There's our promotional shot. Thank you.
Bring in the gun show. Good job. Okay, so that was our talk with Doug Cosmo Clifford. His album Magic Window is out now. We're going to post this on our website, wddimpodcast.com. We will post it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. What's the code? What's the initials?
WDDIM podcast.
Or what difference does it make? So until next time, this is Dave.
This is Holly.
Check you later.
Over and out.